In the news at this hour, tornadoes ripped through North Carolina. Tonight, hundreds injured, homeless, dozens of people are dead. A special Action News 5 report tonight with the latest information from throughout the state. I'm John Hudson. The news is next on Action News 5.
Wilson Dotson wants you to come by and see why everybody says we'll deal, or call toll-free. That's Wilson Dotson, Wilson, North Carolina.
We're wired for weather now on Action News 5.
The wind started blowing, and then this end here, it started coming up, and then the house just picked up, just went up in the air, and it dropped back down.
I heard that there was tornado watch out, but I didn't pay it much mind because, you know, we've heard it so much in the past.
I was going to lie down on the floor, but before I could get on the floor, you know, the trailer went over, and I went out the opposite window, and my wife went out the sliding doors.
Tonight, tornadoes, the terror, the tragedy. A special Action News 5 report, a state torn apart. Good evening, I'm John Hudson. The worst storm of the century. No one in this state has ever seen anything like it. Just last night at this time, about 50 people in North Carolina went about their early evening routines, never suspecting they would be the victims of the killer storm that was about to hit them. Hundreds have been hurt. Now, it may be hard for you to comprehend what you're about to see. It is the tragic story of death and destruction.
The destruction and loss of life across southern and eastern North Carolina is immense. We have an aerial view of Red Springs in Robeson County. This community and at least 20 others look like they've been hit by bombs. Here is the latest information we now have on the loss of life and damage. The State Emergency Command Center says at least 50 people have been killed and at least 650 have been injured. Earlier reports indicated a higher death toll, but state officials now tell us that some of the victims had been counted twice. Sampson County was hardest hit with 11 dead, 10 dead in Pitt County. The twisters claimed 7 lives in both Bertie and Duplin counties, but people are dead and many more left homeless in many more counties.
Naturally, tonight our state is reeling from a crisis, the kind of crisis that makes us very aware of how important accurate weather information can be. For accurate, up-to-the-minute information, of course, like that, we go to Bob DeBartoleben and our meteorologists in the Weather Center. Let's go to Bob right now for some more information. Bob.
Well, John and Adele, the tragic thing about all of this is, first, the National Weather Service has the primary responsibility for issuing all the watches and the warnings. Now, they issue the watch when weather conditions are favorable for these storms to form. Doesn't necessarily say they will form, but the conditions are favorable for this. However, because of the complexity of a storm system that actually produces the twister, it is impossible to say when and where the twister will actually touch down. So the only time a warning can be issued is when the twister is on the ground, and unfortunately then it has done its damage. Here in North Carolina, it started down below Charlotte and it came on up into Scotland County. Then the twisters hopscotched around into Robeson, Cumberland County. Then they started on a northeasterly movement up in the Sampson, Duplin, Wayne County, and then they went up into the northeastern part of the state, Lenoir, Greene, and then up in the far corner, Pitt, Bertie, Gates, and Perquimans County and Hertford County. And it was just a solid line, and that line just stretched all the way from down through the southern coastal plain up into the northeast. And so that's the way that went. It's a tragic shame that we cannot give any more than that, but those are how severe thunderstorms can be. And by the way, a little bit later on in the program, we'll show you just how these storms are formed. John?
All right, thank you, Bob. You know, it is difficult for many of us to realize just how much damage has been done around our state tonight. Now, we've been covering this story for you since last night. Several of our crews have been out all evening, and we do have a number of complete reports for you tonight.
Well, you've just seen where it happened, but now the terror, the shock of the actual night. The people who had to live through the hours of darkness, knowing of the destruction. Ryan Glazer and Art Howard were on the scene in many of the towns that felt the first impact of the storms.
A sleepless and tragic night for residents of the small South Carolina border town of McCall. A tornado hit here just after dark. Winds of up to 100 miles per hour ripped walls off homes, roofs off businesses, and sent trees crashing down atop parked cars. Many survivors say the storm took them by surprise.
I heard that there was tornado watch out, but I didn't pay it much mind because, you know, we've heard it so much in the past.
When the black twisting cloud moved on, it left behind believers and a silence only broken by the sounds of the wild. 10 miles north, 7:10 p.m., the first tornado hits eastern North Carolina. The small crossroads community of Johns is flattened. The only gas station is in shambles. The pumps ripped from their foundation. The man driving this pickup truck was killed. Wesley Russian saw him die.
The truck was coming down 501 going toward Laurinburg, I guess, and the storm picked it up and threw it through a store building.
John's firehouse crumbled. The trucks were spared. The owner of a convenience store watched the back wall yanked apart. A lone dog searched for her newborn puppies. The high winds moved north. In Maxton, the telephone company's tower collapsed. Those who dared to venture along the rural Robeson County roads found treacherous conditions, a maze of downed trees. Robeson County was hit hard. The night dragged on. Another twister carved a devastating path in the town of Red Springs. Utility poles hung only by their cables. Trees snapped like matchsticks, forming a barrier which could only be broken by chainsaws. While rescue crews began moving into the various disaster areas of the Sandhills, victims were being rushed to the only hospital within 50 miles. Scotland County Memorial in Laurinburg treated more than 100 people with injuries ranging from cuts and bruises to broken ribs and heart attacks.
Were you in the tornado?
Jasper Bundy was in his home when the twister hit. The next thing he saw was his backyard and a mound of debris.
Well, it throwed me out. I was out in the field, and I don't know what all hit me. But I'm just thankful to be alive.
Isola McLaughlin was asleep. She was slashed by broken glass.
It threw me against the mirror. You know, it was a loud noise, you know. I can't explain that. I don't want to go through that no more.
You're homeless, you don't have anywhere to go?
Many who were treated and released had no home to return to. For them, a cot and blanket at Laurinburg's American Legion post.
Just was afraid to stay there by myself. Just me and my kids.
While victims slept, convoys of power crews moved in to restore electricity. The National Guard was moved in to restore order, warding off potential looters who might take advantage of the disastrous conditions.
Kind of looks like Lebanon on television.
As 5 a.m. neared, work crews were successfully picking up the pieces, putting a dent in the massive cleanup operation ahead. Brian Glazer, Action News 5.
And today in daylight, we got a better look at what this deadly storm did to our state. Local and state officials trying to survey the miles of devastation couldn't do it from the ground. They had to take to the air in National Guard helicopters. Bill Draper spent the day with Governor Jim Hunt traveling from one area of wreckage to another.
The governor was greeted at his first stop in Maxton by massive destruction. Scores of families stood by their ruined homes, stunned and dazed. They said the tornado roared through here about 7:30 at night.
All the wind was coming along, you know, and sounded like a train. So I looked out the window, I couldn't see a thing but white.
The wind hit the house, and it just tore up this pieces just going every which way.
What did everybody do?
We just fell out and got to praying.
The governor surveyed the damage and tried to console some of the families who lost everything but their lives.
So thankful you've got all your family safe.
Right, yes, sir. God will make a way.
That's right, He will. And I wish you the very best. I'm going to look at all of the state today.
It seems unbelievable that as bad as the destruction was here in Maxton, there were other areas hit even worse.
Just up the road in Red Springs, the tornadoes carved a path of destruction right through the center of town. There were several people killed here, as many as 75 injured. Businesses, homes, and an elementary school were leveled. The entire town was out of commission.
I wouldn't even want to estimate how much damage it is, but it's just extensive property damage, homes, businesses, of course. Downtown business sections just devastated.
The governor followed the storm path to Faison, where there were more people killed and injured. Everywhere he went, the stories were the same. Tales of terror and destruction and death. Stories of houses that disintegrated, of cars and trucks tossed around like toys, and frequently miraculous tales of survival.
You certainly can't protect yourself from a storm of this kind. We're lucky we didn't have 10 times as many people killed, frankly. But the Highway Patrol was immediately at work. The National Guard was out there. All kinds of emergency medical service people, the EMTs and the firemen. I think they've just done a marvelous job.
At every stop, the governor listened to horror stories from the victims and promised to petition the federal government for disaster aid.
The governor has said repeatedly that he has never seen such destruction in his life. With the exception of those who've been in a war zone, neither has anybody else. Bill Draper, Action News 5.
Now imagine what it would be like to have the job of coordinating all the emergency crews for the state. There are some people tonight who don't have to imagine that. That's exactly what they've been doing. Our reporter Tim Kent is at the North Carolina Command Center on Jones Street in downtown Raleigh. Let's go to Tim now for a live report on what's happening there. Tim?
That's right, John. We're in the basement of a downtown Raleigh office building that serves as the headquarters for the state's emergency response team. We just have these recently revised casualty figures for North Carolina. 43 people dead, 796 people injured, more than 2,200 people have been left homeless and are in shelters. Now, most of the people that you see here in this room will remain here until at least some sense of normalcy returns to those areas affected most by widespread tornado damage. Representatives from major agencies such as the Highway Patrol, the Red Cross, and the National Guard are here coordinating their field activities. They are going to be trying to make all the crucial decisions here, how to provide the necessary food and shelter and how to clear the debris and get word to the people on the scene.
A number of disaster drills during the year, and the people that are here in Raleigh and the people that are out in the county know what they're doing. So they know how to go about getting the help that the people need. It's just a matter of everything coming together. And when you've got something that's traumatic, it just takes a while to start get things moving again.
The state's emergency response team will be here around the clock, working in shifts until the crisis is resolved, which, of course, may be quite some time from now. Now, there is one very important point that the people here would like to stress to you folks at home. Please do not drive your cars to the affected areas in curiosity or if you're looking to find loved ones who may be lost. The reason is because there is so much traffic on the roads to and from the damaged areas that there are traffic jams, and quite frankly, the emergency teams are having a tough time getting the necessary people there to help out. We're going to have an updated report from here a little bit later in the newscast. Now back to John.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Well, we've seen homes, businesses, entire homes in shambles. And even now, even though their homes may be rubble, hundreds of families are trying to rebuild their hopes tonight in the wake of the terrible twister. We'll have their story.
And more tonight on where to go for help during this emergency. Stay with us.
We're right. When I run out of things, it's good to know I can run right around the corner to Winn-Dixie. We're right for you.
Fab detergent is $1.29 and Harvest Fresh white potatoes are $1.39.
We're right.
Pinky Pig fresh whole or rib half pork loin is 99 cents a pound at Winn-Dixie.
We're right for you.
Take home our WD brand pure ground beef on special for 99 cents a pound.
Right. Winn-Dixie, we're right for you.
This is it. Time to buy that new Pontiac you've been waiting for. Coggins got over 200 brand new 1984 Pontiacs in stock right now at prices too good to pass up. New Pontiac 1000s from $48.95. Sunbird 2000 from $58.95. 6000s from $78.95. Grand Prix from $88.95. And 1984 Firebird starting at $83.39. So hey.
Come on, move to Coggins. Move to Coggins. Coggins got your ticket to ride. And it's hot.
Nothing beats a Stouffer's pizza, luscious toppings on a French bread crust so crispy brown. All those great ingredients, it's so easy to pick up, but so hard to put down. Help yourself, help yourself, help yourself to Stouffer's pizza. Real cheese toppings, yes indeed. Just one hand is all you need. Help yourself, help yourself, help yourself to Stouffer's pizza. Help yourself to Stouffer's pizza.
North Carolina, your state, is a special place. The Variety Vacation Land, the historic seacoast, the gently rolling hills of the Midlands, the majestic mountains of the West. Enjoy the sights and sounds of North Carolina, spring delight, summer charm, autumn elegance, and winter wonders when the North Carolina Division of Travel and Tourism presents the history and beauty of your state, North Carolina, a special kind of splendor. Sunday at 4:30 right here on WRAL TV 5.
When something as devastating as what happened last night happens, there always seems to be that calm following the storm. That calm came in the early morning hours in Roseboro, one of the hardest hit sections. The night masked much of the chaos left behind by the storm. There was a quiet rain that seemed to cleanse the earth thrown around by the winds. Dogs were barking, birds were chirping. It was too quiet to be normal. When dawn finally came, the sunlight began uncovering the unbelievable ruins in the small rural community. People began arriving at their homes, finding all that was left was snarled metal and wood. and a few belongings wrapped around trees.
Photographer Holly Woodward and reporter Nina Schlossberg were with some of the people of Roseboro as they began arriving at those ruins. For some, the wind swept away much more than personal effects.
There were no words to comfort Steve Hewlem and his family today. Last night he lost his 84-year-old grandmother and his 8-year-old brother. They died here in what used to be a trailer.
I picked it up and we saw the feet. And we called down and told them, we had found them.
It's hard to believe what you're seeing was once a home. Yet last night it was a home where a grandmother embraced a small, frightened boy.
And they found my grandmother finally. They were looking for her. They couldn't find her or my little brother. And when they found him up on the porch of the house, like this here. And they said that he was still in her arms. He was like 8 years old.
Hewlem stood by and watched friends and family as they wept over the debris. He couldn't believe what happened.
It happens to everybody else, but it's like, you never believe it happened to you. I mean, around here we see things like this on TV. Happens out in the Midwest or something, not around here. And then all of a sudden it happens, and it happens to you. It's strange.
But it did happen here. To others, the winds were not as brutal. They destroyed homes, but spared life.
The wind started blowing, and then this end here, it started coming up, and then the house just picked up, just went up in the air, and it dropped back down.
For Troy Strickland, there's a tomorrow, a future ahead because of his friends.
People are taking in their neighbors and really helping them out.
But this devastation has been too painful for the Hewlems. They're leaving.
Well, this place is bad luck. She don't live here anymore.
In Roseboro, Nina Schlossberg, Action News 5.
In Mount Olive, those winds wiped out an entire subdivision, and tonight that town struggles with what to do. Clarence Scott reports the cleanup will be long and painful.
At dawn this morning, the survivors came back to view the damage and begin the cleanup. A pine forest subdivision on the Duplin-Wayne County line has been flattened. Whole houses wiped out, and not much left to reclaim except some clothing and the family pet.
Just heard the wind starting to blow real bad, and we ran to the bedroom and got under the bed, and we could hear the window lights busting out, and we really didn't know how bad it was until one of the neighbors come and got us out.
Miraculously, no one was killed here, but on the other side of Mount Olive, 2 people lost their lives, another one in Faison. The twister hit here, ripping steel beams off this empty warehouse, toppling grain storage bins, and pressing power lines to the ground. That is now the biggest concern, restoring electricity to the area.
We go to the most populated areas first and work just as hard as we can and quick as we can.
The cleanup here in the south side of Mount Olive will take the longest, and city officials have already put a disaster plan into motion.
Our main thrust right now is starting to clean up. We're going to start a central dumping area where we can move this stuff to temporarily. And that's what the main part of what we're going to do today and tomorrow.
Even with the aid and assistance of the town, the cleanup will be costly for these residents. It's the emotional price of losing a home that can never be repaid. Clarence Scott, Action News 5, Mount Olive.
Now, this is not just the story of a storm and its devastation. This is the story of people, how they struggle to overcome their losses tonight, how their friends, their neighbors, even complete strangers have reached out to help. It is also the story of how you can help. We'll have more on that in just a moment.
Now, for those of you who may not have reached relatives in the areas that were hit by the storms, officials at the State Crime Control and Public Safety Division suggest you call your local Red Cross, the one closest to where you live. The people will there try to get in touch with the Red Cross in the area you are concerned about. Another suggestion, get in contact with emergency operations and the police command post in the county where you are trying to contact people. The numbers of those agencies are listed in your telephone book. Meanwhile, the National Guard has secured the town of Red Springs. They're not allowing anyone, even residents and relatives of residents, into that town. Still to come on Action News 5, hospitals. How did they cope with the hundreds injured by the tornadoes? We'll have a report.
And again, North Carolina has called out the National Guard to help in the aftermath. We'll tell you how they're mobilizing when we come back.
For one day only, Saturday, March 31st, inside the Cumberland County Memorial Auditorium and Arena. It's the Toyota Factory Distributor Authorized Truck Rodeo Sale. A roundup of hundreds of trucks and hundreds in savings. Plus, buy any new truck and get a bed liner. All trucks are branded with special low prices, and rain or shine finance teams can have you driving your bargain truck home the same day. Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. inside the Cumberland County Memorial Auditorium and Arena. Save your bucks, buy our trucks, and get a bed liner.
What makes BB&T different from any other bank?
Quality, it's an attitude, being the best you can be.
At BB&T, we value things money can't buy. Things like commitment, integrity, performance. So come see why some of the best things about BB&T have no limits, penalties, or federal regulations.
BB&T, it's more than a bank. It's an attitude.
The whole grain wheat isn't enough. The golden honey isn't enough. The pure bran and slow baking with no added preservatives isn't enough to call this wheat bread Home Pride. What makes it Home Pride is real creamery butter. Home Pride splits each loaf, then pours on real creamery butter and lets it bake right in. It gives our wheat bread a taste that's really special. Home Pride butter topped wheat. Nature's best ingredients, baked better with butter.
The tornado's devastation struck Cumberland County, too, laying waste to a strip 2 miles wide, 7 miles long in the Beaver Dam Township. More than 150 rescue workers combed the rural areas in the rain, searching for injured and homeless. Scores of people were taken to Cape Fear Valley Hospital with broken bones, concussions, and internal bleeding. One person there was killed. A local elementary school was turned into a shelter for the homeless tonight. Those people have been taken in by friends and neighbors who escaped the destruction.
Now, one reason life is returning to normal tonight for thousands of people is the hospital's role in dealing with this disaster. Many hospitals had no choice but to activate their emergency disaster plans. For some of them, this is a first. Denise Boyer reports.
He's got a compound fracture of distal fibula and tibia.
Fractures were just one of the problems doctors here at Scotland County Memorial Hospital in Laurinburg had to handle. Emergency rooms were cramped with frightened, emotional people in pain and needing quick attention. This was the worst disaster imaginable for these people, and the hospital staff was ready for anything.
Started receiving the first group of patients about 8 o'clock, and I guess we learned as time went on that there were going to be many, many more patients brought in for attention, and we didn't know how many there were. Nevertheless, we did implement our full disaster plan.
Most hospitals rarely, if ever, put an emergency disaster plan in action. For instance, Mount Olive Family Medical Center has practiced drills, but never knew what would happen when the real disaster came along. And when it did last night...
It really went well. Most time when you do drills, it seems like things do not go as well, but everybody pitched in, and I don't really feel like we felt like we were in a pinch. Everybody performed very well.
This tiny hospital was bombarded with injured people, but within hours, the chaos was under control. The situation was much the same here at Sampson County Memorial Hospital. This was one of the hardest hit areas. Nursing supervisor Wanda Boyette says if it wasn't for the volunteers, the disaster would have been worse.
They worked beautifully. We had volunteers that came in. I can't commend the people, the community enough. Multiple volunteers from all professional levels and our EMTs came in, and just volunteers, and it was just a beautiful experience, even though it was a very traumatic experience.
A traumatic experience no one ever wants to go through again, even though they know the staff can handle it. Denise Boyer, Action News 5.
Destruction from the devastating twisters meant a lot of Tar Heels students had a day off from schools, and that will be the rule for some tomorrow as well. Now, education reporter Renee McCoy is here with us now and has an update on the school closings in our state.
That's right, Adele. John, thousands of students all over North Carolina were out of school today, mainly because of extensive power outages.
Some county school administrators tell us many students simply weren't able to get to school because of downed trees and damaged homes. Tomorrow, the Eastern Cumberland County School District of Beaver Dam will be closed. Other Cumberland County schools will open on schedule tomorrow. In Wayne County, Spring Creek Elementary will be closed indefinitely because of extensive roof damage. All other Wayne County schools will resume tomorrow on schedule. In Pitt County, Ayden Elementary will be closed tomorrow. School officials aren't sure when that school will reopen. They're hoping to find an alternative site by next week. About 12 classrooms were damaged. All other Pitt County schools will open tomorrow on schedule. In Robeson County, Rex Rennert School will be closed tomorrow. That's near Red Springs. Officials say they're not sure when the school will reopen. However, all other Robeson County schools will be in session tomorrow if electricity has been restored. In Sampson County, all schools will be closed tomorrow. It's a teacher's work day.
And one point of clarification, Spring Creek Elementary in Wayne County will be closed to students. However, teachers and school administrators are to report there as usual. Other school systems in our state, which were not mentioned, are scheduled to open tomorrow as usual.
All right, thanks, Renee.
Thank you, Renee. In just a few moments, we'll be going back to the command center where the statewide disaster coordination is underway. Tim Kent will have a live report.
I'm Tim Smith in Red Springs. If this happened to you, would your insurance be able to handle it? I'll have that story coming up on the Money Desk.
In sports, Bobby Allison tries once again to climb into victory lane. And, of course, in the Weather Center, the latest word from Bob DeBartoleben when we come back.
Nissan trucks on. This is the last roundup for Nissan's 8.8% truck financing. Your last chance to corral the 4x4 with the lowest factory interest rate around.
Head them towards the canyon.
8.8%. You can save up to $1,200 depending on options, but only till April 3rd. Hurry, it's your last chance for 8.8% financing on any new Nissan truck at your Datsun dealer.
Presenting sheer madness. Circuit City's Midnight Madness Sale. Friday only till midnight, every Circuit City will go raving mad with shocking reductions on hundreds of items throughout the store. Friday only, save on this 19-inch diagonal color TV, just $218. And Friday only, save on this compact microwave oven, just $133. Circuit City's Midnight Madness Sale. Get there by midnight before the curtain falls.
A tax-deductible individual retirement account is a solid way to build for the future, and First Union has a wide variety. There are fixed-rate IRAs for competitive interest that stays level, and variable rate. Your return follows money market rates. First Union has self-directed IRAs that reinvest in stocks, and Keogh plans for retirement of the self-employed. A First Union IRA is a great tax shelter today and a solid way to build for the future. Take a closer look. One is right for you.
North Carolina has called out the National Guard to deal with the disaster. One of the most important places the Guard mobilized today was in Robeson County. Layla Tevet has that story.
After the fierce wind whipped through Red Springs, it left in its wake a scene of devastation. The National Guard was not far behind.
Come on, honey.
Some 200 guardsmen like these were assigned to the area, directing traffic, guarding stores ripped open by the storm, and clearing away debris.
You see it over there?
Any idea how long you'll be out?
As long as we need to be.
How long could you keep going like this?
Well, we plan on going all day. As long as it takes, really. Because they need help, and we want to do all we can to help.
Helping out as long as they're needed. That's what the guardsmen say they're here for. The ones who just arrived, and the ones like Tommy Levick, who've been here since first light, working hard. And the people who live here say they appreciate that help. People like Jeannie Smith. She watched this crew clear away a huge oak the wind had blown down just inches from her house.
But it scared me to death. I thought my time had come, I'll tell you.
What do you think about these National Guardsmen working in your front yard?
I'm so glad. I'm just so thankful for them. I really am.
One of the guardsmen called out was George Paris. He's also mayor of this town. He says damages here will run into the tens of millions of dollars, and it will take days just to restore essential services like power and water. While that's being done, he says, he'll need the National Guard here.
We hope, we would like to keep them probably until we get the power on, at least in the downtown areas and the business areas, until we can get them secured.
You're talking about a day or two?
Yes.
The weekend or beyond. When the guardsmen leave, they'll take away with them the gratitude of the whole town. It'll be some time before this town returns to normal, but it'll be even longer before the people here forget the help of the National Guard. In Red Springs, I'm Layla Tevet, Action News 5.
And we've mentioned, Adele, our crews being out all through the state all night long. And, of course, I mentioned that Charlie Gaddy is out on the scene of some of that destruction right now. We have seen the aftermath. perhaps it'd be time to check in with Bob and see exactly how all this got started.
Well, John and Adele, again, the complexity of a tornado just makes it impossible to tell when it will actually hit the ground. Weather experts can define a corridor about 140 miles, 150 miles wide, a corridor, and we can say, okay, we think that the tornadoes will form in that area. But we don't know, we can't say that a twister is actually going to touch down at Jones Crossroads as an example. But let's show you the ingredients that go into forming tornadoes and what we look for. Well, we had a big storm system. There was no doubt about it. We already knew it yesterday morning and at noon. This was one of the strongest storm systems, a low-pressure area, forming down in Georgia and moving into South Carolina. One of the strongest storm systems we'd ever seen, very, very low pressure. Greg Fischel said yesterday that it could even be lower than Hurricane Hazel. It was doggone close to it. Then we had warm air. We had a warm front branching out over it. This is down along the surface of the Earth. In the mid-atmosphere, which we cannot show you on our surface weather chart, there was cold air. So we had the warm air and the cold air was mixing. Then, as the warm front moved north, we added moisture coming up out of the Gulf and out of the Atlantic Ocean. Then the final ingredient, and this is what tops it off, the jet stream. And the jet stream was roaring right through South Carolina, North Carolina, up in the upper atmosphere at 150 miles an hour. Those are the ingredients that produced the corridor in eastern North Carolina, about 140 miles wide, that weather experts can say, okay, we think that this is a good area where tornadoes will form, and of course they certainly did. Well, let's get back into our current statistics now, our conditions around here. High today, a very chilly 52 degrees. Our morning's low, 43. We're at 48 right now. 51% humidity. The pressure, very low yesterday while all of this was going on. Now is starting to rise. 29, 44. We have very, very strong winds coming out of the northwest, and that's due to that storm system. It's up off the Atlantic coast. 14 miles an hour, gusting as high as 25 miles an hour. And here are the lake levels for you. And by the way, one other thing we really want to think about, all of the rivers and streams in eastern North Carolina are starting to rise now. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we didn't see some flooding downstream a little bit later on in the week. Now, here's the system today. It's up off the New Jersey coast, and it's causing all sorts of problems. First for us, the wind roaring out of the northwest. For parts of West Virginia, all up through Pennsylvania and New York State, as much as 2 feet of snow. One little note about Martinsburg, West Virginia. Started out with 3 inches of rain, followed by 7 inches of snow. 5 inches of that snow fell in an hour and a half. That is almost unbelievable. For us now, some showers are hanging off the coast. We've got a lot of cloud cover with us, but that's about it. Now, tomorrow things will start to clear out. We'll start to get a little sunshine. We'll still have some northwesterly winds flowing, and so our temperatures will stay fairly cool. There's a system now making up back in the Rockies. This is going to move along the lower Mississippi Valley. We don't think now that it's going to bother us by the weekend. If it does at all, it could affect the southeastern part of the state with just some light shower activity on Sunday. Around North Carolina right now, there was a little drizzle up in the mountains. And speaking of the mountains, here's our weekend, partly cloudy, 48 to 58. We've taken out any chances of rain up in the mountains. If you're going down to the coast this weekend, it is going to be fairly pleasant, 57 to 64, north to south, but we'll still have some strong winds and some fairly rough waves. Sunday, partly cloudy, not much change in the temperature, a little change in the wind direction, and that's about it. As we said, a few showers. We're up at Asheville, 38 degrees. We might see a few snow flurries up in the northern mountains this evening. Otherwise, right at the moment, cloudy skies. We're at 48 degrees. Let's go to our forecast now for the Triangle area for the remainder of the evening, and this is what we've got. Cloudy skies, temperatures moving down into the 40s overnight tonight. Kind of chilly, especially up on the state line. If you have any vegetation, might take a look. 35 degrees. We'll start to get a break in our cloud. Tomorrow, 35 to 43. Start to see the sunshine. Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day because the McCullers Ruritan is having their barbecue. 401 south, 7 miles. Turn left at the winking, blinking light. 58 degrees. Good day to eat barbecue tomorrow. I love it. I love the way McCullers Ruritan does everything. And then Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, just cool temperatures into Tuesday. But we don't see any precipitation. We have to look for a rainbow with all of the trouble we've had yesterday. So Rhonda Phillips from Middlesex has drawn us a pretty rainbow, and I think that's a nice way to end the forecast, John.
All right, Bob. Thank you very much. Now for the latest on what's happening statewide, let's go back to Tim Kent for a live report from the North Carolina Command Center. Tim?
John, to no surprise, we understand that a little bit later tonight, the governor is going to declare an official state of emergency, and he is going to appoint Heman Clark, who is the Director of Crime Control and Public Safety, as the man in charge of implementing the state's emergency plan. Secretary Clark, how exactly is that going to work, and what's going to be the priority?
Well, I think the priority now that the immediate needs of the victims have been met, such as hospitalization, will be housing. That's one of the main problems that obvious to anyone, that we have, what is it, 2,200 or more homeless. A very pitiful situation. And
you're going to need help from the federal government as well.
Yes, indeed. It seems as oftentimes the poor people, the ill-housed, are the ones that suffer the most because their houses are destroyed so easily. And this is what was true in this instance. It's terrible.
Being in charge of crime control, have your men been able to keep the peace in the affected areas?
Oh, yes. There's been no really problem at all about that. I think as far as that's concerned, you've never seen such a display of caring for each other as you see in this disaster area. It's typical of the people of eastern North Carolina anyway, but they really help each other.
You had an opportunity to survey the damage from the air. What's your estimate? How long is it going to take to get back to some semblance of normalcy?
It's going to take a long, long time, 6 or 8 months, I'm sure, at least. We didn't just fly over. The governor went from place to place. We must have landed 6 or 7 times. Can't count them. And we went right down on the street and on the site, as you can see from the TV program.
Okay. Secretary Heman Clark, thank you very much. Let's update the estimate on damage for the area. We have $19 million in property damage estimated for the state. The worst damage appears to be in Pitt County with $10 million worth of damage. The casualty totals are these: 43 people dead, 796 people injured, and more than 2,200 people have been left homeless. John?
All right, thank you, Tim. And we said that Charlie Gaddy was out in the field. We will be going to him live in downtown Mount Olive later on.
Now, there are a lot of people tonight who need financial help. Now, if you want to send money, police are asking that you only send money to the American Red Cross. That address is Post Office Box 14405, Raleigh, North Carolina, and the zip code is 27620. Make your check payable to North Carolina Tornado or North Carolina Disaster. Any other contributions you would like to make, food, clothes, things of that sort, please take them to your local Salvation Army. Here in Raleigh, you'll find the Salvation Army at 215 South Person Street, in Greenville at 2337 West Dickinson Street, Goldsboro, 610 North William Street, and in Fayetteville at 220 East Russell Street. And as we mentioned before, we will be going live to Charlie Gaddy, who is in Mount Olive. Still to come tonight, though, we have Money Desk.
Tim Smith gives us the latest on insurance and how people hit by this destruction can get help. Stay with us.
For one day only, Saturday, March 31st, inside the Cumberland County Memorial Auditorium and Arena, it's the Toyota Factory Distributor Authorized Truck Rodeo Sale. A roundup of hundreds of trucks and hundreds in savings. Plus, buy any new truck and get a bed liner. All trucks are branded with special low prices, and rain or shine finance teams can have you driving your bargain truck home the same day. Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. inside the Cumberland County Memorial Auditorium and Arena. Save your bucks, buy our trucks, and get a bed liner.
I've been using Murphy's Oil soap all through this house of mine. Now the dirt is finished, but the finish is fine. We've been using Murphy's Oil soap on cedar, oak, and pine. Now the dirt is finished, but the finish is fine. Cleans everything, safe as can be. Kind to your hands and fresh naturally. You'll be using Murphy's all the time. Cause the dirt is finished, but the finish is fine.
People have trusted pure natural Murphy's Oil soap for 75 years.
There's nothing like lounging around in the sun on a day like today. So make a mad dash to Rose's, because there you'll find all sorts of outdoor furniture to lounge on. Take the Suntears Largo furniture, for example. A sturdy rocker, the chaise lounge, and a chair, too. And while you're at Rose's, get everything else you need for the great outdoors. It's all under one roof. Everything's coming up Rose's. This sale through Saturday.
I've been trying to understand how Southern National Bank can offer a 6-month CD with a rate of return like this. And this annualized yield, I don't know how we're doing it. But we're doing it. But I don't know how we're doing it. How are we doing it?
Great rates, only from Southern National Bank.
Charlie Gaddy, as we mentioned to you before, is out covering some of the destruction on one of the areas hardest hit by some of these tornadoes. He is in Mount Olive right now with a live report. Charlie, can you give us a status on that area?
Yes, Adele, everybody, and we're disappointed we couldn't join you at 6 o'clock, but we had some sort of weather condition that wouldn't allow our signal to get through. But the devastation here in Mount Olive is unbelievable. I came to this site because I saw a man walking around here with a hammer, and before it got dark, you could see a friend of his home back here. This man's friend lives here, and Kenneth Stevens, if you'll move in here, was walking around with a hammer trying to do something to put all this back together. And you were here last night when this happened. What did it sound like, and what happened?
Well, it sounded like a whole lot of, just like a plane came through. And it only lasted for about 5 or 10 seconds. And then from that, a lot of glass thrown, windows was out. And then it just happened so fast, really.
What were you trying to do with that hammer out there? It looked like a sort of futile effort with all the damage that's been done to this home and the home behind it, all this tin that's been blown away. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to put back together tonight?
The main thing we're trying to do is board up the windows, what windows are still up, because it's still calling for rain or whatever, and so it won't do no more damage than what it's already done.
Now, where are you and the people who lived around here whose homes have been devastated? Where are you going to stay tonight?
Well, we're going to stay back there tonight because it's still parts of the house are still pretty good.
It's going to take a lot of work by a lot of people to put these homes back together, won't it? And a lot of financial aid, I would imagine. You think the neighbors will pitch in and try to help each other here?
I imagine so. I imagine so. This is one time we really had to stick together.
That's right. Thank you very much for talking with us. We also, just a few minutes before airtime, and let me look at the monitor here and narrate this footage that we took, and this will be raw footage. This is an area, the likes of which I have never seen. I've never seen devastation like this, but some of the homes, as you can see, are being boarded up. There are officials to keep people who don't belong to the property here out of that area. But it is amazing some of the things that we saw in this area. Some of this tin that you see blown around in the trees could have and probably did injure people, many people. There were places where there were beds made with the walls of the bedroom that had vanished. Here's an example of the kind of destruction that we have seen around the Mount Olive area and south of Mount Olive. We're speaking to you just a little south of Mount Olive, and look at this. The devastation is incredible. Full-size trailer trucks were taken and overturned into ditches. Walls and roofs. One lady said that the roof came up from off of her home and settled right back down and no one was hurt. But that's the scene. We sort of rambled around and tried to, before it got dark, tried to shoot some of the footage of the wreckage down the road, and we're sorry we couldn't join you earlier in the program before it got dark. But the story here is that people are absolutely incredulously devastated. They are trying to work together to bring this back. It's getting cold, it's getting dark. A lot of them need to have a place to go, and we hope that somewhere tonight they find it. Adele, John?
All right, thank you, Charlie. You know, besides all the personal tragedy associated with the events we've been telling you about, there is, of course, a tremendous amount of financial loss as well. Tim Smith from the Money Desk is here to talk about handling that loss on an individual basis. Tim.
An individual basis means out-of-pocket or insurance. We hope insurance for most people because, of course, it's a tragedy that some people are not insured. But most homeowners do handle their losses through insurance. Companies, compared to the total potential dollar value that a tornado or other disaster can do, the cost of insurance really is a real bargain. Yet there are some inexpensive and simple ways to make homeowners coverage even better. I went to the scene of some of the damage today to talk insurance.
I was fixing dinner and it just sounded like a freight train coming through. Lights started flickering and everything went out.
Descriptions of the tornado like that from Rick Beard are common, but once the fear of the moment is gone, there's the terrible job of cleaning up and fixing up. For most homeowners, they turn to their insurance company.
Completely destroyed.
This is the Southeastern Regional Claims Center at Nationwide Insurance. Customer representatives were kept jumping all day long here, answering calls for assistance from homeowners and insurance agents. Other companies are in the same boat.
We've had to call in all of our extra people today to try to handle the influx of phones. It's extremely busy for a Thursday, and of course we know what's causing it. It's, I would say, a 200% increase over what it normally is.
The idea is to get adjusters there quickly so people who need immediate help can get it. Things are normal looking here in St. Paul's, a small town in Robeson County. But inside Sam Evans' insurance office, the damage claims are mounting up, especially from places like Red Springs, Maxton, Parkton, and other towns to the west.
Roy Knox Fisher, his was a total loss, I believe. He said that the roof and everything came off the top of his.
Having a good insurance agent can be the key to being covered when a disaster like this strikes. An agent who makes sure you have enough coverage to cover the changing value of your home.
Within 80% or better of replacement cost on house furniture, replacement cost.
Adjust it yearly?
Regularly, right.
One of the best values in homeowners insurance is replacement value coverage. That way, no matter how old your house or its contents, the insurance pays to replace it at today's costs. For example, coverage on a $60,000 home in Robeson County can be made replacement value for only $30 more per year. That's the thing about most homeowners insurance policies. Most homeowners don't read them very carefully until something happens. That's what Sarah Epton did. She came home to find this today. She got out her policy right away, and she's covered.
I saw that it said it'd take care of wind damage, so I consider this wind.
I would too. You've been paying insurance probably for years and years and never used it.
Yes, I certainly have.
And now the payoff comes.
I hope.
Sarah Epton was born in this house. She wants it insured right. Down the street, Eleanor McMillan was out surveying her damage. She's lived here 23 years, and all this is pretty upsetting. She hasn't had time yet to call her insurance people, but she will. Do you think your insurance is going to be okay?
I have a homeowner's policy, and I thought that would cover everything, or anything concerning the house, anyway.
You have an agent that you trust about this?
Yes, I do.
The point of all this, of course, is for you to check your insurance coverage before something like this happens to you. A homeowner's policy covers many things besides tornadoes, and while you may go years without using it, like Sarah Epton, this is the payoff. And as I mentioned, the property damage that is caused by these twisters means that many of the insurance agents will be swamped with claims. Now, the insurance commissioner's office says tonight that the folks at that office are ready to help with damage settlements if you need them. We have a couple of numbers for you to call if you need some advice. 1-800-662-7777. Or in area code 919-733-2032. That's a Raleigh number for the department's Consumer Action Division there in the Insurance Commissioner's office. So if anybody needs help, there is help available. Obviously, you need to talk to your individual insurance agents, too.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Coming up, more news, shooting in Raleigh.
One that involves a police officer. We'll have a full report next.
Folks, 50 years ago, Nissan started building quality automobiles. And your Datsun dealers are celebrating that event right now during our Golden Anniversary celebration. Our sports cars are raring to go. Polestar, the exciting new 200SX, and the turbocharged 300ZX, more power than any other Z car before it. The best of 50 years of automotive excellence is yours now.
Now is the time to save at your North Carolina area Datsun dealers.
Firestone has a master plan for better car care. MasterCare by Firestone. MasterCare is the answer to just about all of your car care problems, no matter what kind of car you drive. And MasterCare service is always affordably priced. Get a complete electronic tune-up specially priced from $24.95 and get a Firestone travel mug free. Or get a MasterCare wheel alignment for only $16.95 and you'll also get a free mug. MasterCare by Firestone. Only where you see this sign.
29-year-old man is in serious condition after being shot early today by a Raleigh police officer. The shooting happened here near the Glenwood Shopping Center. The police report says the suspect, Bradford Morgan, was acting suspiciously when he was approached by an officer.
He advanced at the officer on 2 occasions, swiping at him with the knife. The officer backed up approximately 15 feet, according to the report, which backed him up against his car. The individual then again went at the officer, and the officer shot him at the lower extremity of his body.
Heinemann says that officer, Curtis Womble, has been placed on administrative duty while the shooting is investigated.
Coming up on Action News 5 at 11 o'clock, the tornado disaster 24 hours later. We'll go to some of the hardest hit areas to see how people are coping with curfews, looting, and lack of housing. Now, many of those people will be looking to the government for help. We'll have a report on what the officials in Washington say they can do, and we'll talk with Governor Jim Hunt, who spent the day traveling the tornado's path of destruction. We'll have a complete update on the storm, plus more news, weather, and sports at 11 o'clock on Action News 5 tonight. Coming up, there's only one hope for an NCAA championship in the ACC.
That's right, and the Virginia Cavaliers are warming up for the tough competition in the Final Four. Tom Suter will tell us all about it next.
The grand opening sale of Carolina Waterbeds in Raleigh. Save up to 50%. Hurry to Carolina Waterbeds, Highway 70 West, next to Circuit City.
Carolina Waterbeds, naturally.
Watch closely and see what no kitchen faucet has ever done before. It rises. Moen's new riser adjusts to your big jobs beautifully. And now during Moen's Plumbing Pro Days, riser adjusts to your budget. See your participating plumber today and save $10 on the installed price of riser, or $5 on the installed price of any other washerless faucet from Moen.
Have you driven a Ford?
Some say Ford Escort remains the world's bestseller because of these impressive diesel ratings. Well, here's my reason. This limited edition Carolina VIP Escort. I saved plenty on an option package that came with special two-tone paint, tape stripe, and more, including this Carolina VIP emblem. All in all, it's a very intelligent purchase. But hurry.
See your Carolina Ford dealer.
VIP Escort.
The question tonight is Baltimore going to be the same?
No, they're not. The Colts are leaving. Can you believe that? What is Johnny Unitas saying right now? He's probably saying, boo. Yeah. That's exactly what he's saying. Folks, the Baltimore Colts are no more. Culminating, I guess, 8 years of threats, owner Robert Irsay has stripped Baltimore of its once proud National Football League franchise. That announcement today. While most of the city of Baltimore slept last night, moving vans were at work emptying the club's training facilities and heading for the team's new home in Indianapolis. I got to tell you, the Indianapolis Colts just doesn't have that special ring, does it? The Indianapolis Colts. All right, the University of Virginia, bearing the ACC banner, is in Seattle, Washington today. They worked out there in preparation for Saturday's Final Four battle with Houston. Now, this is an interesting game because earlier this season, Houston beat Virginia 74-65. Both teams say they are better. While the Cavaliers' Terry Holland calls the Cougars one of the best teams in the country, he also says, hey, they are not world beaters.
I do think that Houston is a beatable basketball team. I do think that if we play well, that we have a chance to beat them. Again, I know that we don't have the dominant big man that the other three teams have in the Final Four, but I think that we can compete with Houston and with the other teams in the Final Four.
Okay, and folks, don't count out Virginia in this thing. Something about teams that think they are destined to win. Remember North Carolina State. This report from the Kentucky camp today say that both Sam Bowie and Kenny Walker are nursing sprained ankles, but both hope to be ready for their game Saturday with Georgetown. I'll tell you, the Cats are going to need them against the Hoyas. Man, Michigan ran Notre Dame right out of Madison Square Garden last night. Boom, crunch, pow. And the Irish are probably saying, hey, what kind of truck is that? Only a 2-point game at half, but then the blitzkrieg comes, and the man is Tim McCormick. 28 points. The 6'10 junior also 14 rebounds, 13 of 16 from the field, including that jam burger there. Andre Turner had 16. The Wolverines pulverized the Irish 83-63 to win the 47th NIT. Hey, going into this Sunday's Valleydale 500, Bristol, Tennessee, this has been a boom or bust year for Bobby Allison, and it looks like Bobby's going to have an uphill fight to make it 2 straight driving titles. More from Bob Holliday.
Moments of glory for Bobby Allison this season have been few and far between. At Rockingham, he mixed it up with Dick Brooks, but did emerge with the win. However, in Atlanta, trouble. The same as Daytona and Richmond. Misfortune ruined a promising start in the Coca-Cola 500. And so after 4 races, Allison is not even in the top 15 in the points race. But he's not giving up.
The car's been fast, and it's been driving good and handling good everywhere we've been. And, of course, you know, once we get the reliability straightened out on it, I'm looking forward to having another good season.
Now, Bristol, not one of Bobby's better tracks.
Bristol's a place where I won several races several years back, and I haven't won there for quite a while, so we're really looking at that. We're hoping that we can get the car fast and driving good and everything all at the same time, and put on a good run at Bristol. I'd like to see if we couldn't win one there.
A win would put Allison up in the standings, but should he fail to even finish, well, Allison won't even think about that. Bob Holliday, Action Sports 5.
College baseball today at North Carolina State. You better believe with this win, baseball's flying all over the place. Listen to this. North Carolina State 29, Wake Forest 10. That ain't football. Tracy Woodson still swinging the big stick. 2 3-run homers, a double, 7 RBIs. He's got 15 homers, 57 RBIs for the season. State clobbers Wake 29-10. Now, how about this in golf? Roxborough's own Jim Thorpe, the first-round leader at the Tournament Players Championship in windy Jacksonville, Florida. Thorpe, a 4 under 68, one-shot lead on John Mahaffey.
All right, thanks, Tom. When we come back, we'll take you back to the scene of much of the storm damage and to Charlie Gaddy, who's standing by.
Are there nights you can't sleep because you take your job to bed?
I'm behind schedule.
Here's a sleep aid for the 80s. Nitol with advanced formula DPH. Faster and safe used as directed. Nitol helps make you drowsy to fall asleep faster. Faster than without Nitol. When you take your job to bed,
I'll never make my quota.
Reach for Nitol with DPH and fall asleep faster. Nitol with DPH. A sleep aid for the 80s.
It's mean. It's tough. It's the Boss Nissan Truck ST. Prowl with Hemi head power and on-command 4-wheel drive. Storm with 5-speed, sport wheel engages, and come alive to major motion. This is your last chance to catch the ST with 8.8% financing before it disappears at your Datsun dealer.
When blue mold develops in your tobacco, it can cost you plenty. But there's a simple and sure way to keep blue mold out of the picture. Ridamil, the systemic fungicide that actually prevents blue mold. Ridamil, before transplanting, protects your tobacco all season long. It's the best possible way to keep blue mold from showing up in your field and grow healthy, top-grade tobacco. Ridamil, it stops blue mold before it develops.
Let's get an update on our weather now from Bob.
Thank you, John. The storm is up off the coast now. As much as 2 feet of snow falling in parts of Pennsylvania up through New York State into New England. We've got a very, very strong wind flow. It's going to hang with us now at least through tomorrow. Forecast for the remainder of the evening now, mostly cloudy skies with temperatures drifting down into the 40s. Overnight tonight, a little chilly, 35 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Start to get a little break, kind of cool up along the line. No scattered frost reported. But if you have some tender vegetation, you might protect it just to be on the safe side. Moving up the 40s, partly cloudy tomorrow. And then during the day, 58 degrees. Not a bad day, although it'll be a little breezy again. Then on the extended forecast, temperatures are going to hang quite cool in the 50s right on through Tuesday. Sunday, there might be a few showers in the southeast coast. All right, Adele, it's yours.
All right, Bob, thank you. Now we're going to take you back out to Charlie, who is standing by in Mount Olive. Charlie?
Adele, as we mentioned before, and Bob mentioned the wind here, and the chill factor is going to be very cold tonight, especially if it gets into the 30s. And there are a lot of people who don't have a place to go tonight unless they've heard about some of these emergency shelters, and we certainly hope that they have. But the spirit of this devastation is unbelievable, but people begin to pull together when things like this happen to them. And we have one of those wonderful stories now out of the Laurinburg, Maxton, Red Springs area with Connie Howard.
And they brought you back here last night. Were you able to rest pretty well here last night? Okay.
Minister Olin Hefner of the First Baptist Church in Red Springs walked through the church greeting the few people still there seeking shelter and comfort from the disaster just beyond the glass windows. 66-year-old Annie Robinson and her 90-year-old mother made it out of their small home just before glass and furniture were picked up by strong winds. For shelter, they went to the fire station and then the armory, and then finally through the storm, they walked here and found strangers who welcomed them in with open arms.
Okay, here's some applesauce and a napkin. If you need a drink, we have drinks right in the next room.
If you didn't come here, where would you go?
Oh, we had to go back. There's nowhere else to go.
All right, we're going to have some hot supper tonight.
Right now, Annie Robinson doesn't have to worry about going back to what's left of her home. Reverend Hefner has opened his doors. These pews will serve as beds. Small stoves will provide heat, and volunteers, grateful that they were not injured, will serve as cooks. Throughout the day, they made sandwiches and poured drinks for the volunteers who were clearing the roadways. Judy May lived in this community years ago. She came back today to help.
Just because we love humankind, I suppose, and when people need help, people fall in and do.
Really, last night, almost felt guilty for being safe and having an undamaged home. And when I realized, you know, there were people here and would be coming in, I just knew this is where I'd spend my day.
Whatever the reason, people turned out to do whatever they could.
I wanted to do what I could, but I was afraid of what we'd find.
As the shock of this disaster settles in, the church will fill with more and more people seeking shelter and food and support. Together, they and the volunteers will give thanks for surviving the deadly storm. In Red Springs, Connie Howard, Action News 5.
So Connie is right. There are a lot of good Samaritans in North Carolina, and if North Carolina ever needed them, it is tonight. John, Adele?
All right, thank you very much, Charlie, and everyone that contributed to tonight's show. ABC News is next. We hope you'll join Adele and Charlie tonight for Action News 5 at 11 o'clock. Good night.